Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Beyond Wall Street podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Nathan Bowers, here with Brandon Nieves.
Hello.
And today we're just doing a general discussion. I apologize for my webcam quality. The light, we have a lighting issue in my room here, so it gets a little fuzzy on my end, but that's not what the important thing here is the audio. So you still got that. But we're going to be discussing today conflicts and issues you may run into during your accumulation phase of your IRA or your retirement planning process. So Brandon's got a few things he wants to share, and we're just going to go over just general conversation. I know bits and pieces we know from the industry and tips and tricks to abide by to make sure you get there along your financial pathway to retirement. So I'll transition over you, Brandon, let you take the reins here and just lead us on in. Oh, your mic's muted.
Okay.
There we go.
Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate it, my man. And yeah, I think that we wanted to talk about this because, over the last 20 years, this has always been a challenge, for, people want to put more money away, people want to save more money, but there's this conflict. There's a conflict between the things you want now and the things that you're going to want later, but later is just some people can't even think 5 years past their own life, let alone some type of future retirement date. And the whole financial system, the financial planning industry as a whole is all about, putting money away, dollar cost averaging, invest in the market for the long term. But at the same time, people, have a lot of expenses today and people prefer to buy things now. And so the idea is, how do you balance that out? You have all these major wealth transfers, and a major wealth transfer is, mortgages, qualified plans, taxes, college planning, or major capital purchases, which is defined as anything that you can't pay for in a given month with your monthly cash flow. If you cannot pay for that item, that's a major capital expense. So how do you do that? And a lot of people, what they do is they take from their future selves. And you got present you and you got future you. And when you buy something on credit, it's your money, but you're taking it from future you. You are taking money from yourself that on income that you have not made yet. And so over the years, I found that that's the biggest challenge for people, is that even people who make a lot of money, I've seen people who make a lot of money, $500,000 a year, and they got maybe $500,000 in their retirement account, but that's not even close to sustain their lifestyle when you actually, adjust it for inflation. So kind of give you a little bit of a mind's eye view of this. Let me just show
Well, you
you
pull
this
that
right
up.
here.
Let me kind of just caveat off of that. And it's a
Yeah.
great conversation I had with my gas station attendant clerk. And I was, they have an issue with their lottery machine. There's a bunch of people in line going for it. And I'm like, how much money do these people spend each month on these lottery tickets? And, it's like, well, it ranges, 10, $20 for some people in the couple hundreds. I'm just like, if you invested say $100 that you're playing the lottery each month into a proper account, you don't need to play the lottery. You'll be a millionaire on your own accord. And it's stuff like that is, as a young kid, I can attest to this is, I always had it in my mind, but, I wanted to buy TVs and I wanted to buy all this other stuff. And had I known at age, 21 starting out, if I started leveraging my money to where it worked for me, I could have bought all those things on my own and a lot better ones by just utilizing a financial plan to build compound interest on my money in a way, in an environment that I can access it. I could have built 10, 20, 30, $50,000 in, 5, 6 years with the money I was spending on those things. And I could have bought even better versions of those and still have all this money just building up. So
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And I'm sure in the time frame that you've been in the industry, there's really three kinds of people that you're always going to run into.
mhm,
And I've often found this is it. And when I speak to somebody for the first time, I try to decipher which one are they between these three options. Are they more of a spender? Are they more of a saver? Or are they more of a wealth creator, which will define what that really is. I mean, what is a wealth creator? And a wealth creator simply is the same. He does the same thing that the spender and saver does, but the difference with the wealth creator is that he uses safe positive leverage while he spends. At the same time, he's actually earning interest on his spending, which simultaneously allows him to save more money to create more wealth. And then so he has more capital for other opportunities such as other investments or whatever whatever that
Making your
person
dollar
really
go
wants.
further than just
Exactly.
spending it at its cost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there was a great saying I heard one time, the best way to rob a bank is to become one. And so, yeah, so you got you got the spender. Now the spender lives below the zero line. So they live below the zero line. So they spend 100% of everything they make, 100% of it. But the problem, and then you got the saver. The saver doesn't like debt at all, and they're always saving their money. So they like to live, above the line.
Let me say, if anybody's out
And
there
then you got
watching
this.
this and you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're a spender.
Mm, you're a
So,
spender, exactly. Yeah. And you know what? As long as you just got to admit that and then just transition yourself out of it. Now you see with a wealth creator, they do the same thing. If you notice, the wealth creator combines the saving, the spender, and the saver, but their income, their capital is actually increasing upward. So you earn, borrow, and live below the zero line. That's the spender. You save, buy, and live at the zero line. That's the saver. And then the wealth creator is you save, borrow, buy, and live above the zero line. So this is the, I mean, and there's people that I have met that are doing this, right? And they don't even realize it. They're doing it by default, but there are people that are doing this,
it's a
that are
great passive
creating
trait
wealth.
to have.
Exactly, right? Yeah. And I've saw you say, you know what you are? You actually a wealth creator. And I was like, oh, I like that term. I says, yeah, that's what you are. You're a wealth creator. And this was a guy who I knew who was leveraging, real estate. And I
Mhm.
added another idea for him that he really loved, that he implemented that. And that's something that we'll talk about. But I thought it was important to at least start off and show this, because it really creates a real visual as to which type of person are you. And everyone will fall between one of these three types of, individuals: spender, saver, wealth creator.
And I just want to say really quick, because a lot of things you hear, and just, not even when I was in the markets, just talking to people is like, oh, what do you want to do with your life? What's your dream? Oh, I want to start a business, or I want to do something. I want to buy real estate, but I can't ever figure out how to get the money. And it's like, well, I mean, now I know how. I mean, I could tell them exactly how. And if,
Yeah,
hopefully that's one day what this podcast comes to, is people can watch these videos and they get that attitude right away, and they know, like, oh shoot, these guys are just they just went on MapQuest and just gave me the whole voyage, the whole trip, turn by turn directions, and how to be able to
yeah,
get a cash pool, to be able to leverage outside of just your own personal savings and create more wealth, and stop working for someone else's dream and work for your own dream.
exactly. Yeah. And I tell you, there's a lot of people here. Here's the spender though. So the spender does this, he earns all his money. He doesn't save anything.
Are you trying to share
And
something right now?
yeah, can you see it?
No, I can't.
Oh, you can't see this? Okay, hold on just for a second. Uh, Okay, go back here.
I think a lot of the problem is just the culture we have now too, is, social media. And I was talking about this with my barber. She was just saying, and we brought that up, is people, they don't have, they want to buy, the uh Kylie Jenner makeup kits, and I gotta spend my money. I gotta buy this to, be accepted, or I gotta buy this. And really it's just they're brainwashing you into, feeding their bank accounts instead of your own, because all this super material stuff is, you don't really need it to be defined as a human being, and it's just inhibiting your own personal success financially, because, well, and I was too, sucked into the brand name, I always want to wear Nike. I always had to be dressed in, the latest trends and, be fashionable. And now I wear, I'll buy a t-shirt like twice a year, maybe. And that's really pushing it. So
Right, right. I know. So, okay, I'm trying to share this screen. Hold on just for a second here. Okay, hold on. There we go. There we go.
there
Can you
we
see
go.
that? Okay.
Yeah.
So
Now
here we
we're,
go. All right. So here we go. So did you see the first screen, right? You saw the first one, right?
no, we got to go back just one and then we'll
Oh,
be,
we got to go back. All right. So let's go back. Let's go back to that because that really is a good storyline to share. So it goes like this. So first you got the spender. And the spenders, they earn, borrow, live, and below the zero line. That's where they always are. Then you got that saver. The saver, they're better, but they live above it. But the problem with the saver is you're going to see that soon. The problem with the saver is every time they want to buy something, they got to drain their tank, and then
saving
they
up
got
for
to
big
start the process
purchases.
all over
Yeah.
again. Right. But then you got this guy or this gal, the wealth creator. Now, the wealth creator, what I love about is that they're doing the same thing, but they're just applying something different. There are ways to do this. I mean, I one of the things that kept me in the industry was when I found out about well, they have call it different names, bank on yourself, the infinite banking concept, because all these different strategies that I would always run into, it was like all of it was the same stuff. There was nothing unique about it.
Yeah.
But when I found out about the banking concept, I said that's the missing link. That's really what's missing in a lot of people's lives. So being a wealth creator is somebody who also spends money, they save money, but when they spend, they earn interest on their spending. And as they're saving money, they're actually earning even more money on their spending. So the more money they spend, the more interest they earn, but you just gotta spend money the right kind of way. And
Hmm.
right now, probably doesn't make it. Well, what are they talking about? Well, it's nothing new under the sun, but we'll show you how that works. But now this shows you how the spender does. And a lot of people are like this. I can't afford to put money away. I can't afford to make my money work for me. And the reason why is because all their money is going towards major capital purchases and funding their lifestyle. So now they got about 55 to 60% of all their money funding their lifestyle, another 30 to 35 going towards expenses and liabilities. And then maybe they got about maybe 5%, 10% going towards their savings or their investments. I'm going to show you in a moment here how you can actually increase your rate of return dramatically. I'm talking about getting a 40% return on your money by just changing on how you actually spend that. I'll show you how it works because when you hear it for the first time, it sounds very like, what? What does that even mean? I don't even understand that. And it's a real paradigm shift. So now what you have with the spender, he spends 100%, has no collateral. So one of the ways to earn interest on your spending is you got to increase your collateral capacity, which is that might be a new term for a lot of people. And so the only option for the spender for major capital purchases is using other people's money, but paying that interest to them back. And then every time they need capital, they're always robbing from their future self. It happens over and over and
New
over
line
again.
of debt.
Yeah. And before you know it, you're 65 years old. And one of the biggest, this is the American way. This right here is the American way. And unfortunately, a lot of people are doing this. And if you are, get out of this. But now you can't just say, okay, well, I'm going to stop being a spender. I'm going to start being a saver. Well, look at the saver. Now, the saver is definitely doing something better. The saver is also spending money, but the saver is also acknowledging the fact that, hey, we gotta put some money away. We gotta invest. So the saver likes to do that. So when there is a future major capital purchase, what does the saver do? Well, he doesn't like paying interest to anybody else. He hates debt. All right.
That's a
But
good
what ends
thing
up
though.
happening, yeah, he hates debt. But what ends up
Interest is
happening,
insane. If you map out your mortgage interest over 30 years,
oh yeah,
oh my
it'll
gosh.
kill you. It'll kill you over time. And it's not the actual interest rate. It's actually the volume of the interest that you pay over time that kills you. So people say, well, I'll look for the lowest interest rate. Well, yeah, okay, that's a step in the right direction, but that's not really what really drives this down. What drives your wealth down is the volume of that interest that you pay over time. If you think about going to the doctor, they give you, some a vaccine or some medicine. If they give you too much, they can kill you. If they give you too
Mhm.
little, it won't do anything. But if they give you the right amount, it can save your
A big
life.
mistake people make is refinancing, because all you're doing is resetting that interest, and you're just pouring more of your own money out into that interest pool instead of, if you're going to refinance for lower payment, you need to be leveraging the difference between what you were paying, because you could afford it already, and
Yep.
what you're paying now into somewhere that starts earning against that interest, meaning you're starting to get interest on your own accord for your own money. And that's how you kind of dig yourself out of that hole.
Yep. Yeah. So this is the problem here. So now when the saver wants to buy something, what does he do? Well, I'm not gonna use debt. I'm actually gonna take it from my own savings. So now when you do that, you lower your savings tank, and now you spend your money to buy the major capital purchase. But what happens now? What do you got to do now? Well, now you got to fill the tank back up again. And then every time you spend money, you just drive it back down again. You're doing this over and over and over and over again. Over time, you're losing so much interest that this money could have earned had you not kept doing this all the time. It's
Mhm.
better than the spender, but if you think about it, it's just another way of losing money. The saver, what's happening with the saver is that there's a concept that people have to understand, that you finance everything you buy. You finance everything you buy. You either pay interest to somebody else, or you simply forfeit the interest your money could have earned had you had that money still invested or still earning interest. So if a saver spends something, what he's simply doing is he's taking money from himself. He's forfeiting the interest that money could have earned, and then he's losing it. And that money is gone. It's gone forever, never to return. So that's why a lot of banks are willing to give you good interest rates, because they understand the value of your money today, because that's what they want. They want that money now, because try to get that money a year from now, it's not going to be worth the same. Now, the
Mhm.
saver definitely is a better situation, but it's still problematic. It's still problematic. Then you got that wealth creator. Now, the wealth creator does something a little differently. Now, he diversifies accounts to create some access to capital. So the wealth creator always stays liquid. So when the time comes for a major capital purchase or an investment opportunity, he simply collateralizes his account as opposed to liquidating the account. So the account is still there earning interest. He's just collateralizing it. So the money is still there, and it's still compounding and growing as he's actually borrowing that money. He's not taking it directly from his account. He's actually collateralizing it with another financial institution. And then he's turning around and using their money at an interest rate while his money is still earning interest here. Imagine if he uses this for an investment opportunity. Now he's earning interest. The money that he's using to make the investment is still earning interest, as if he never took the money out of the account. And then he goes ahead and makes the investment. So let's say he makes 10% there, he makes 5% in this account, he's making 15%, and he never skipped a beat. His money was always compounding. There are people doing this all the time. And
And
when I applied this for the first time and I saw it with my own eyes, I was like, holy cow, people need to know about this.
and people think, when we talk about these things, these are, this, oh, that's for people with money, or this is for, someone, some high echelon person. No, every single person, and this is what I was telling the barber today, doesn't matter what your income bracket is, doesn't matter how much you make. You could become financially independent, just independently wealthy, just on being strategic with what you use for your money and where you allocate it. That's all. It's all
Right.
matters of placement and time.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And when we talk about financial independence, people think that, what is that? What is financial independence? Financial independence is when you have enough passive income coming in that's residual that exceeds your expenses. So if you have money, like everybody has a certain level of financial independence right now. Like for example, if you got enough money to last you 6 months without you having to work, you're financially independent for 6 months.
Mhm.
You're wealthy for 6 months. So you have enough wealth to last you 6 months, and then you're, then you got to rebuild. But the idea is to have that whatever is cost to maintain your lifestyle over time. If you have enough money that can earn enough interest to pay those liabilities, you've arrived. That's financial independence. It's not about, you know, the whole idea of mansions and cars and all that. That's rich. When Nathan and I are talking about wealth building, we're talking about residual income that comes in every month, year after year, that covers all your expenses. And by virtue of having that, you've achieved financial wealth to a certain degree. It just has to be predicated according to your lifestyle. So
Right.
it's relative to you.
And I just think about this. If whoever's watches this video, if you cut your expenditures by 5%, say you make $1,000 a week, by 5%, take that $50 and you invest it in an according account, that's $600 a year. What that's going to
Yep.
do, now you're earning compound interest on $600 a year. And in 10 years, that money will grow. I mean, I'm just throwing out numbers here, ballparking it, but you're going to add at least two more zeros onto that $600 a year that you put in there for 10 years. So you put a $6,000 investment over 10 years that now grew into the tens of thousands. And you repeat that on a larger scale for larger results. And anybody can do this.
That's right. That's right. So like, let's give you a good example here. Let's say you want to reducing expenses is good financial management. So I always say there's two types of rates of return that everybody can achieve. The first is the internal rate of return. That's the one that everybody's always trying to go after, right? That's the rate of return that you get from investments, right? And that's an important one. But that's the one return that you can't control. You don't control the rate of return. You could have the best asset allocation model there is, but you still don't control that rate of return. It doesn't matter what you're invested in, you don't control it. The only returns that you and I can control and everybody else is your external rate of return. I'll give you a point. Check this out right here. So let's say you got a guy who's making $140,000 a year and he's saving $6,000 a year. And let's say the rate of return on his savings is 12%. Now, is 12% annual return, is that a good return? Yeah, for the most part, double digits, I would say that's a decent return. You get 12%, right? So how much does he earn on that? Well, if his annual expenses, that's a little too high with the annual expenses there. Uh, let's see here. So let's go it's annual expenses. That's a little too high. I don't know if I want to go that. So let's do that. Let's do, well, okay, after the savings, let's say this is what you have discretionary, $134,000, right? You've invested 6,000, you're getting 12%, you earned $720 in interest on your savings, all right? But could you do better than that? Could you get a better return than that? Could you get a better return without increasing your risk? This is something that wealthy people do all the time. I mean, this is nothing new, because if you can just focus on your external rate of return, let's say you can reduce your internal expenses, focus on your income. Instead of focusing on the rate of return, focus on what you're spending your money on. So let's say if we could reduce the amount of money we're spending on our income by 2%, that's the equivalent of getting $2,680 in interest when you base it on your income. If you could now, the return equivalent on $6,000 invested would be a 44.67% return. All we did was, instead of focusing on the return that you cannot control, you shift your attention to the return that you can control. So if you're making $134,000 a year after you put your $6,000 away, and you can reduce 2%, just take 2% of the income and just circumvent it into an account where you're earning a competitive rate of return, that would be the equivalent of you earning 44.67%. And all we did was just turn our attention from one direction to another. That's all we did. So I focused on my income. I say, okay, my income is going over here. I got to make it $140,000 a year. So if I take, 2% of that and just shift it into an environment that I can control, that is the equivalent of getting a 44.67% return on my $6,000 a year. And I didn't even increase my risk factor at all.
And you're just taking, just say the water main in your home, pipe of water, that's your income stream. That's your income. You got 15 leaks in it. All you just did was plug one. And now the reservoir is building just a little bit more. And every time you can plug a leak, you just gain more exponentially,
right,
in your own accounts, in your own money.
So if you can reduce it's like 134,000, 2% of that after you put your $6,000 away, and you just put that money into a different environment where you have control and safety over, you just think about what you just did. You just created a 44.67% return. What if you could do this over and over again? What if instead of doing 2%, well, let's take it a little further, which can be proven by the fact that 44.67 of 6,000 is the $6,000.
2680.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where we're getting the $2,680. But what if you could do it by 3%? So if you increase it by 3, that's the equivalent of getting a 67% return. So 3% of your $134,000, if you can just migrate that into an environment where you can get a competitive return, not a pie in the sky return. What you're looking for is consistency. You're looking for money is constantly compounding. It's not about the rate of return. It's about how many compounding cycles your money has to compound over and over again. And when it does that, your money will grow exponentially. The challenge, Nathan, is that a lot of people, money needs 3 things for it to grow. It needs the ability to grow, it needs the opportunity to grow, but it needs time. Yep. You just got to give it time to do its thing. But if you just circumvent your attention to reducing expenses, that is how you're going to increase your overall rate of return. And if you could do this and continuously earn interest while you're using the money, well, now you got yourself something different.
And if you go drastic, you cut by 10%. Just 10% is not a lot in your budget. But say once you get cracking at it, you get up to 10%, just humor me for it.
Yeah.
This is what a tenth, $13,000.
$400. Now just take the $13,400, put it into an account where you can earn 5, 6, 7, 8% constant returns with no market risk. It's very important. No market risk, no taxation. So
act like it's a bill. Exactly. Act like you have to pay it every month. It's a bill. It's part of your budget. You can't get rid of it, and you're forcing yourself to.
Look at that.
Great.
That's the equivalent of getting a 223.33% rate of return on your $6,000. That blows away your 12% annual return. And that 12% you're getting, you got to take full risk to get that 12%.
Yep.
So everything revolves around your income is the one thing you can control, and the external rate of return is the one thing. So if you want to increase your overall return, focus on where your money is being spent. That's why over the course of a lifetime, we're always going to spend more money than we can ever save or invest. Isn't that right? Would you agree with that? Over a lifetime, we're all going to spend more than we're ever going to save or invest, right? So if we could harness that earning potential based on our spending, if we could just take 2% of that spending and just control it and put it into an environment we can get compound interest on with no market risk and no taxation and no government rules and everything like that, that you are being told of when you got to pull money out or when you could take money out. Now you got yourself more control to where you can make a lot more other investments.
Just
now
think
you have
about
more flexibility.
just think about, you don't have to do it for your whole life, but the beginning of your life, if you did practice, if you saved more than you spent for 3 years, 2 years, and put that and put that money where it needed to be and made that plan,
Mhm.
you'd be financially independent in 10 years. Just based
Yeah.
off of, I just think of my old income stream. I'll use me as an example. I made 60, 70,000 a year as a railroad worker. If I would have took, we'll say 60, 40, 60% of 60,000, we'll just, for math's sake, we'll say 35,000.
Okay.
If I put 35,000 for 3 years into, let's just say an IUL, that's, $125,000, I think. Oh my gosh. Now I'd be swimming in it. I mean, I'd have at least a $500,000. You would have to, you know,
Yeah.
respectively, with just compound interest, even that short amount of time. But that's what anybody
Yeah.
can do, and it's just all about control. Is what means more to you,
That's right.
having things now or having more things later?
Simple fact that, let me get this out of the way. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. The great thing about doing like this is that while you're building, wealth, while you are putting money away in different accounts for retirement, you're still having access to this money that you're
Yeah,
finding, that you're reducing your expenses by, and you're harnessing that potential. And now you can still have that money grow for you while you're even using it. All you got to do is increase your collateral capacity. So the next time, in the next video, I want to talk about something that I think is probably one of the most profound strategies ever. And
this
that's
actually times out well
private
because we need
reserve
to get
strategy.
with our closing statements anyway. So this times up well, Brandon.
So yeah, this is
What's
good.
this big
Yes.
plan you got for me?
So yeah, so the private reserve strategy is what we'll talk about next, but that is going to actually show you there are a lot of different accounts, because you're thinking, okay, if I find 10% of my $134,000, where do I put it? Where do I put it? Well, there's a couple of things you need. First, you need compound interest, you need tax advantages, you need to have the ability to earn a better return than what you can get in a normal, safe account. So, but you also need to have that money in an environment where you can still have growth potential. And then you also need the ability to collateralize the account so that you don't actually have to liquidate the account when you want to use it to either increase your net worth, increase your portfolio, or you want to go on a vacation, you want to buy a car, you want to buy something major. Instead of constantly saving money, draining the tank, starting over again, or using a credit card, paying the interest to somebody else, what you got to do is become the bank yourself.
I was just
Become
going
your
to
own
say that.
financier.
That sounds a lot like becoming the bank, huh?
Becoming the bank. Yeah, that's the one equation that is missing, because Americans, all Americans, everybody invests. Americans don't have an investment problem. They have a capitalization problem. And that's what we try to focus on the real issue, because when you can combine financing with investing, you're always going to have a much greater rate of return than if you just focus on investing by itself.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
So,
What was that strategy called you're going to talk about?
The
next week?
private reserve strategy. And it's not a
Private reserve
product, it's
strategy.
actually a strategy, because there's a lot of different accounts that can work as your private reserve strategy. There's a lot of different accounts, but it's got to pass a filter, or what you can call it a litmus test. There's a litmus test that you got to use. And so there's got to be certain ingredients that this account would have to have. You can use a brokerage account, you could use a traditional savings, but you could use you could use real estate. But there are certain ingredients that you got to have for the private reserve strategy to work. And we're going to dissect different investments to determine which one would be the best to work as a private reserve account.
That sounds good to me. Well, I'm
Cool.
going to wrap things up here, brother man, if you
All
don't
right.
mind.
That sounds good.
Great conversation today, as always. You always bring so much to the table. And I just have closing thoughts for anybody out there watching this video or when you go to view it. If you're not taking this seriously, you should, or you're gonna end up working till the day you die, and no one wants to do that. And I'm not being grim about it, I'm just being honest, because we evaluate people's accounts. We do illustrations, projections for a living. And you'd be surprised how many people are not going to be where they need to be because they just don't think to meet with a financial professional and go over these things. And you have to make a plan. If you plan to buy a house, you come up with a savings plan. Well, if you're going to become independently wealthy or you want to increase your own wealth, you have to meet with someone who has the ability to facilitate that and ask the right questions, and go deep into your analytics and what you're spending your money on, and say, is that something that really means that much to you, or does this mean more to you? Being financially independent. You kind of got to push people where they need to be to get to, to show them that's how you get there. If you want to be at point B, I'll tell you how to get there. You're not going to like part of it because you're going to have to do things you don't want to do and live, change certain things, but not to change everything, just a little bit at a time.
Just a little bit at a time. Yeah. That's how you do it. How you eat an elephant, one piece at a time.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool, my man. Well, Nathan,
right.
It's always a pleasure talking with you, brother.
You as well. Next week, we will go over in-depth review of that new product. I can't wait. This will even be a new one for me, so I'm really excited to see what
strategy.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
not new
strategy.
product.
Because we're going to look at different financial products. But once we get the strategy down, then we look at, okay, I got the strategy. Now let's look at products to see which one will be the best product for the strategy. And then we just let the filter it out. We don't do anything. We just let it do its thing. And it'll start to tell us, okay, this one will work, this one will work, this one will work, this one will work, but only in these ingredients, so we'll talk about that. And it's an eye opener.
All right. Well, you heard it here, folks. This has been the Beyond Wall Street podcast, both affiliates with W.H. Steiner. And as you can see, Skyline Financial, bringing this to you on a weekly basis, getting more content out there to help viewers like you. If you'd like to meet and schedule with me or Brandon for free, and I say free, consultations to kind of start getting this plan in motion, having those conversations you need to, I will have the according links below in the description of the YouTube video, as well as any posts that I send out on social media, and you can get your meeting with us and get that ball rolling. So this has been our April 13th episode of the Beyond Wall Street podcast, and we'll have more to you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. All right.